Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me. This is Sandra Pradas Martin, your parent and self-leadership coach with Self-Balance Solutions. And I'm creating this message for you today because I've actually been asked by folks to offer a little bit more tools and approaches on how to, in the moment, in the midst of an outburst, a tantrum that our child is doing, and the way it's triggering us, how to really apply being a more self-balanced parent, to be a more positive, conscious, aware, mindful in our approach. So I decided to actually use a very real personal family experience that we had over the summer that was kind of a very heightened example of my daughter having an outburst, having a tantrum, being super reactionary. And so the scenario is that we were on family vacation. We did a lot of swimming, a lot of fun in the pool, which was resulting in both my children, actually. My son is 6, my daughter's 4.5, soon to be 5. And they started to kind of tug and pull at their ears, and they both have their own personal histories of ear issues. And so my husband and I are very clued into the signs of maybe something more going on with their ears. And so we wanted to have it checked out because, again, vacation's gonna end and we need to be up on a plane, and it's even worse to be on a plane with an infection. So we decided to go to the local kind of hospital clinic. Now, my daughter was absolutely not okay with this. She was super resistant, defiant about going there and being there, even more so than my son. And so what I needed to do is I needed to really tap into my own kind of higher self, my higher parent, on how to manage this in a way that was going to shift the energy that she was putting out there. Now, I talk a lot about the 7 levels of parenting. And so in these moments of stress, of resistance, of frustration, it is super easy for us to go to kind of our default modes and being super reactionary, kind of meeting the conflict with more conflict, and rather than kind of tapping into or being aware and attuned to the moment in using some of our higher levels of parenting, which would call more upon forgiveness, which called more upon compassion, and a more of peace and calm to the scenario. And it's hard to do. I definitely get it. We can very quickly be triggered, but the trigger is our trigger. And so it's practicing in these kind of examples that I'll be sharing on how to do that. And it's recognizing that feeling coming up for us and intentionally choosing to act differently. And so all along, I was using 2 strategies that mirror our higher parenting levels. And the first is that I talk a lot about is shifting the energy first and doing the problem solving later. Many of us parents are quick to do and go to the fix-it problem-solving mode because we think that's kind of what we need to be doing and what would work best, when in fact, it's quite the opposite. It only often stirs to agitate and create more conflict because our children are not in that space or place. You know, think of ourselves when we're in the midst of a conflict or a stressful situation. The last thing we're ready to do is to go in that fix-it problem-solving mode. We need to kind of be in that space and place of frustration and deal with that and shift that out of the picture before we can go into the latter. So that was kind of my call to action as I was starting to really be present and aware that I had many eyes and ears on me, likely judging me, how I was likely judging how I was doing in my own parenting, likely judging my daughter and how she was being very visibly reactionary and resistant and defiant. But my focus and my concentration was in many ways to be forgiving of what was going on, because after all, she's 4.5 years old and her reactions were really more symptomatic of kind of more underlying fear of how she was projecting what was going to happen in the visit. and to be more compassionate, and to really create more calm and peace in my own response to her, rather than to meet her and have my own adult tantrum, as I like to say. So the first thing I was doing again was shifting the energy first. I was getting down on my knees. I was connecting with her, making as much eye contact as I could with her, and encouraging her to breathe through her anxiety. And the other second thing that I did quite a bit of all throughout was to acknowledge and validate. And I talk a lot about this as well. And the best thing to do in these heightened moments is to acknowledge the situation and then validate the feeling. So acknowledge the situation would be things like, telling my daughter, sweetie, I know this is a different place. I know these aren't our doctors. I know we're on vacation and this is the last thing we want to be doing. Acknowledging that this is unfamiliar, kind of uncomfortable territory, and then validating the emotions around her being scared, nervous, afraid, and that's normal, and that is kind of expected because of this being a different place, a different doctor. And so doing variations of acknowledging and validating all along with trying to shift the energy of her being really scared and angry, and that resistance was really more about that. And just to share with you that all throughout her kind of outbursts, they were so heightened that even the aide to the nurse who was trying to help taking kind of the vitals for her before going to get checked out by the doctor was so taken aback by her reactions, my daughter's reactions, that she even said to me, hey, does your daughter see anybody? Does she get any professional help? And, maybe she should. And I was so surprised that that's the interpretation she was having, that I quickly felt my kind of bear parent self, right? The protective bear that we like to be as moms and dads. I had that bubbling feeling in my stomach, and being attuned and aware of that, I made sure that I didn't attach myself to it, but rather I recognized it, I kind of let it go, and all I said to her, I was like, hey, listen, my daughter is 4.5 years old. We are not from here. We are on vacation. This is not where we come to for checking out our ears, and what you're seeing is a 4.5-year-old scared. So no, we don't see anybody. This is not who she is. You're seeing a 4.5-year-old who's scared. And that's all I said. And so with that, the woman kind of backed away. I redirected my attention and focus to my daughter. Again, doing all of my approaches of shifting the energy. We even went to the bathroom, giving her kind of a time and space to kind of feel her emotions in a way that was a little bit more protective in the bathroom, so her and I could connect and engage. I even asked her kind of ways that I can support her to make sure that we did get the ears checked out, and she asked if in fact her brother could go first. She asked if in fact she could watch, and so we did exactly that. We went back into the room where the doctor came in, who noticed and saw that she needed her kind of space to be respected, and her brother went first. And so even though she was still resistant and kind of battling this internal feeling of her anger and fear with battling the techniques of how to calm herself down and kind of take it all in without being so nervous and scared of these projected ideas of what could happen, we kind of sat there. She was on my lap, comforting her in ways that met her and matched her with where she was at, all along being and encouraging my own higher parent, again, kind of offering the compassion and forgiveness of what she was going through and creating a space of more of calm. She finally calmed down. She finally got to a place where she was able to be less resistant and at least get herself checked out, which in fact ended up being she did have an infection and we needed to take antibiotics. And once her perceived fears were unmet, because in fact the appointment did nothing more than just check the ear with the little tool that that they checked the ear with. And knowing that that's all that happened, we wrapped up the visit and kind of wrapped everything up, and back we went to our rooms. And once she was calm, once she was in a place that was comfortable, familiar, a place where she knew that she was done with the doctor's appointment, her and I had a heart-to-heart. And we really talked about what happened. I really took the intention of helping her also build her awareness muscle, because really at the end of the day, this is what it's all about. It's about taking time to model for our children and to teach them kind of the alternate ways to manage and deal with challenge and stress, because we all know life is going to give us many of those moments and opportunities to grapple and tackle challenges and stress. And so these are just the small little ways that even for our children at 4, 5, 6, etc., have. And so every moment is a moment of opportunity to think about and see how we can engage that situation differently. I needed to make sure that I was there for her, that I support her, that she can trust me even though she wasn't trusting of this place, and that she was safe. And so when in our heart-to-heart, we talked about everything that went on leading up to the visit, what took place throughout the visit, and talked about how actually the visit ended up wrapping up, and that in fact, like I said, her fears were unmet. And then we talked through ways of how we could have possibly, or how she could have possibly managed that differently. And so I share this because even for our children who could be as young as mine are, they really do have the skills. They are intuitive enough, they are smart enough, they are skilled enough to have these conversations where we can practice their awareness muscle, where we can practice with them how to check in with themselves, how to lessen their anxiety, lessen their fears, lessen the stress that is coming up for them. And they can only do that when they've seen that example in us. And so I hope this message was helpful for you. Again, I talk a lot about the 7 levels of parenting, and where we might fall on the day-to-day operations, and where we might fall when we're in that stress default mode. And so I wanted to share with you this real-life family example of mine, and ways that when we are called in those moments, it can be really tough for us, how we can tap into our higher levels of our parenting, our higher self, to offer a much more engaged, a much more positive, mindful parenting experience, so that at the end of the day, it doesn't have to feel like we went to war, which I know many of us feel when we're met with this conflict and resistance and stress, etc. So I'm here for you. And if you have any thoughts, any questions, please feel free to ask them. And I wish you a great week ahead, and may you continue working on parenting differently and to show up as your best parent. Talk with you soon.